This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the one and only gatekeeper of my favorite investment conference, that of course being the New Orleans Investment Conference. I'm talking about none other than Mr. Brien Lundin. Brien, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Gerardo. Always a pleasure to talk with you and looking forward to catching up on our annual catch up at the New Orleans conference.
Always excited for it. Thank you again for the invite this year. Can't wait to get out there. For those not familiar, I always like to start my conversations with you by allowing you a bit of space to provide some context on the conference, the quality of speakers, and how special this year in particular is because it is the 50th anniversary of the New Orleans Investment Conference. Again, it's a conference that's near and dear to my heart, but I'd love for you to just kind of set the table for us and let everyone out there that's maybe contemplating coming out what they can expect and why this year is a pivotal year to be there, one that no one should miss if you're able to make it out there.
Yeah, thank you. It's not widely known, I guess, but those who know, know. You know, if you know, you know. The New Orleans conference this is our 50th anniversary, and the first one was held in 1974, launched by my mentor and late business partner, Jim Blanchard, in the early 70s, because he had been fighting since Nixon closed the gold window in 1971 to get gold legalized for American citizens. A lot of people don't realize it was actually illegal for you to own gold back then. So he was successful in that, along with a lot of help from other people in the industry. And so he decided to have a conference to teach Americans how to invest in gold and why. So he did that in 1974, and it grew and grew, had a great turnout. And long before, we had all the cable financial networks and the like, this was one of the premier ways to learn about the market and opportunities in that market. And over the years, Jim brought in just tremendous speakers like Lady Margaret Thatcher, Ayn Rand, Milton Friedman, F.A. Hayek, Barry Goldwater. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I've been trying to continue that legacy since Jim passed away in 1999. And we have focused always, and especially in recent years, on getting the top thinkers out there. There are a lot of brilliant people who are posting on social media, primarily Twitter/X, that are just really wonderful thinkers and analysts who are trying to explain the extraordinary times we are in. And that's kind of always been our goal, our mantra, is to explain what's going on and give information, give intelligence, give analysis that people don't get from the mainstream media. So it's a special event this year because we're celebrating our 50th anniversary. But even more important for the attendees is that it's coming at the very beginnings of the next big secular bull market in metals and mining. One that's going to take the gold price to a multiple of today's levels and is going to multiply over and over the values of well-placed, well-managed mining companies. And if there's one truth in investing, one unassailable truth, is that at such a point when a metals and mining bull market is beginning, you need to be in New Orleans at this event, because nowhere else are you going to see the experts that can explain what's going on, that can lay out the best strategies, that can give their top picks from the inside, and also have dozens and dozens and dozens of the top mining companies there for you to talk to the management, see what they're doing, and get their stories. So it's, if you're a serious investor, you have to think hard to find a reason why you can't or shouldn't be at this event. The rewards, the potential rewards, are so obvious and compelling that, for example, in any year, we offer a money-back guarantee. If you don't feel it's worth what you paid for it, we'll give you back every penny of your registration fee. And then 15 years that we've been doing that, we've given back registrations to, I think, 3 people who were just confused about what the event was about, and that's it. So we do it, but we don't do it often because people come back year after year because they see the value, and the value is absolutely overwhelming. It's so much greater than the cost, especially in a time like this.
I couldn't agree more. Can we talk a bit about the lineup? I mean, the lineup is top notch. It's top notch every year.
Oh yeah.
But in a year where geopolitically, fiscally, economically, there's so much volatility. And by the way, I personally think we're just at the start of that volatility, right? I think there's going to be the need for guides and people that have seen similar cycles in the past to kind of map out how to navigate what I see as turbulent waters here over the next several years. But can we talk about the lineup of people that you have this year? Because it's, again, top notch.
In addition to Gerardo Del Real and Nick Hodge, we also have James Grant, George Gammon, Rick Rule, Danielle DiMartino Booth, Brent Johnson, Jim Urio, Peter Bookvar, Jim Bianco, James Lavish, Adrian Day, Dave Collum, Alex Green, Bob Prechter, Tracy Schuchart, Abby Gilbert, Lawrence Lepard, and dozens and dozens and dozens more. I won't. It'll take me a while to go through the whole list, so I'll stop there. But I urge people to go to our website and see the lineup. It's really like nothing else. And we're also going to have exclusive virtual presentations by Tabby Costa and Lynn Alden, who weren't able to travel this year to the event. So the value from top to bottom is obvious. And really what's not as obvious is the value you get from your fellow attendees. The people in this audience are very successful, very experienced in the markets, and are very willing to share their ideas and thoughts, and they encourage you to share yours. So it's a remarkable sense of camaraderie and intellectual energy at the event. It's just has to be experienced to be believed.
You wrote a piece a couple of days ago, and it's kind of curious too, because I wrote an editorial yesterday, and I as soon as I was done submitting it for editing, I read your piece, and it they echoed each other. But you were talking about the bond market, and you were talking about the trajectory of precious metals in particular, but the direction that policy is likely headed in, and how consequential that was for the precious metal space. It was a brilliant piece. We will try to put a link up to it, but I encourage everyone to look for that piece because it was well written. Can you speak to what you're seeing specifically in the bond market right now? Because I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, typically market analysts look at falling bond yields as a safe haven phenomenon. Investors are looking for safety, so they rush in and they buy treasuries and they drive yields lower. However, sometimes rising treasury yields are a sign of safe haven investing, of worried investors, and that is even more profound because the source of their worry when yields go up are treasuries themselves. It's not just it's that treasury yields at current levels aren't commensurate with the risk they present. And the risk that investors are evidencing through that behavior is the risk of inflation, of the dollar, what they're going to be paid being depreciated to a large degree. And in some cases, it's not even the return they get on the money, but if they get a return of their money by investing in those bonds. So that's what happens when you see the bond vigilantes, as it were, coming in and driving rates up. And what's been interesting is that gold should trade in an inverse relationship to treasury yields. When treasury yields are rising, gold price should be falling. Same thing with the dollar index. When the dollar is strong, gold should be falling. That's the standard operating procedure that most people think is just an absolute truism in the markets. Yeah. But over the past year, we've seen a number of occasions and periods where the dollar has risen, has strengthened, and treasury yields have risen, and gold has risen along with them.
Hmm.
And that's because investors are seeking the ultimate safe haven, that being gold. They're fleeing for the safety of gold and away from treasuries. And they're also fleeing for the safety of the dollar, which is in itself a hedge against a lot of political uncertainty, and the U.S. being the last refuge in a lot of people's minds. So it's interesting that gold has risen this past year, and especially since late February, March. No matter what the dollar index has done, no matter what treasury yields have done, no matter what anything else has done in the markets, it is rising because there's a lot of money out there that on the margins wants to have a foothold in gold to anchor the rest of their portfolios given the uncertainties ahead. And there's so much money out there, and the gold market is so small relative to all that money that it only takes fractions of a percentage of point shifts in allocations toward gold to have really the kind of reaction that we're seeing right now.
You know, it's curious and interesting to me, Brien, that statement you just made about how small amounts of capital relative to the amount of capital that's floating around out there, right? How small amounts of capital are able to influence the gold market in such a profound fashion, because the same could be said for other commodities, right? It could be said for silver. It could be said for uranium.
Yeah.
I could go on, but what other sectors are you bullish on outside of the precious metals? Because clearly, I think both you and I agree that gold and silver are both headed higher and will continue to make new record highs. In the case of gold, I think that'll happen on an almost monthly basis. In the case of silver, it's got some catching up to do, and I expect that to happen in very short order. But what other sectors do you like out there?
Yeah, I am bullish as well for entirely different reasons. We have the monetary megatrend that's benefiting gold and silver. We have the energy megatrend that's benefiting uranium. But there's also another megatrend kind of associated to the energy one, where all of the base metals, all of the battery/energy metals just have a tremendous supply-demand story, really one of the most compelling we've ever seen. As I'm sure you and Nick are also skeptical about all the projections that you see out there for energy usage, battery usage. I mean, nobody really knows the future to decimal places. But still, if you take all of that and totally disregard it, you have a tremendous demand curve and supply constraints for, say, copper coming ahead, just in a base case. But then if you add even some fraction of all the predictions for electrification of transportation, of the rebuilding of the global electrical grid, you just can't get around the fact that there's so much more copper will be needed than is available right now or in the foreseeable future. Because remember, copper mines have, if they have feasibility studies, they're 10 years away from producing. If they're discoveries, they're 20, 25 years away from producing. So we have remarkable visibility ahead into what future copper supplies will be. And there ain't enough of it. So the price has got to rise. It just absolutely has to, I believe, a multiple of where it is today. So copper is a tough one to play, especially in the junior markets like you and I like to play around in. But there are some good copper plays out there, and I think that's one of those set it, forget it kind of investing themes where you find a good company, good management team, well-financed, good projects, and buy it, put it away, and come back in a few years and see where it is. Because that is a market that will be relatively slow to gain steam. But once it does, it will be absolutely unstoppable.
I couldn't agree with you more. Brien, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Where can people find details? And of course, we'll put a link up, but where can people find details on the conference, the speakers, the exhibitors, the partners? Where can they go?
Yeah, New Orleans Conference NewOrleansConference.com. Very simply, NewOrleansConference.com. Click on the About Us link, learn more about this year's event, in the history of the event. And one key factor is that our room block in the convenient host hotel, the beautiful, Hilton New Orleans Riverside, right on the banks of the Mississippi River. Our room block is closing imminently, so we really urge people to register now. They'll save hundreds of dollars by registering now on the registration fee, but they'll also be able to assure themselves of getting in our host hotel.
Can't encourage people enough to get out there. The conference for me was an opportunity that, the networking, the amount of information, quality information from the speakers, it absolutely changed the trajectory of my career for the better. And if you can make it out there, it's a fun event. It's a great event. The staff is phenomenal. And Brien, kudos to you. Congratulations again on the 50th anniversary, and looking forward to catching up next month, sir.
Same here, Gerardo. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right. See you soon. You take care.
You got it. Thanks. Bye.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.